of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Testado. Chapter 79. The Almighty Land, Part 3. Standing up, his hands placed firmly on the safety rail, Shouta looked out at Musatafu from the zenith of the Ferris wheel and chuckled.
"This is quite the view,"
he admitted, his elbow lightly nudging the other who was stood so close to him.
"But honestly, I'm not sure anything could beat you taking me home that day,"
he said, his cheeks flushing.
"You know, the day I said something ridiculously inappropriate without meaning to, because I'm an idiot,"
he furthered, his wry glance looking up at the man who bonked at him.
"So to God, you are not an idiot,"
he was quick to state, his own blush giving way to a serious look.
"You said something perfectly innocent, which I stupidly reacted to," he added, his tone becoming sheepish. I genuinely didn't mean any offense. Not taken,"
he interjected quickly, his body turning to him fully, the city lying at their feet as a cool mist descended from the ceiling of their brightly colored capsule.
I'm still pretty new to, well, all of this," he admitted bashfully. "I guess I just never really thought about, wanting to connect with someone romantically,"
he continued, his eyes having to look away, his toes curling slightly with embarrassment.
"It sounds kind of silly and immature to say it out loud, doesn't it?" "Shouta,
the other breathed, his tone clearly startled and vaguely admonishing.
"Please, you mustn't say such things."
He tried, those large hands looking as though they wanted to reach out, but didn't. He probably didn't want to pressure him. He was incredibly mindful like that, wasn't he?
You have dedicated your life, your whole self, to fighting injustice. You were raising other children when you were a child yourself," he reminds, head shaking. "There was nothing silly or immature about such things," he told him frankly, "and as someone who is in awe of you, I do not want to hear you being so self-depreciating again. Thank you very much.
Blinking, the eatery owner realized just how close they were. The other was a good head taller than him. Those lips of his looked really soft, didn't they? He never kissed someone before, well, not romantically at least. He'd given pecks on people's cheeks, foreheads, temples, and bruises to help them heal. However, there was something different about doing such things with someone you were attracted to, wasn't there? Was it too soon to think of such a thing? Did he want to? Did Toshinori want to? Was it unromantic to ask?
He had not watched many romantic movies or read such things in manga, so... "Shouta,
what should he do? Yelping, the flock of gulls screeching past him, almost rocking the car in a blister of feathers and upset, the squall of their cries loud and shocking in the quiet anticipation that had been building up between them. Shouta, completely inadvertently, he'd swear on his life, jolted into the taller man. The taller man who upped in surprise and tumbled onto the cushioned bench behind him, the motion causing their capsule to sway. The taller man whose lap he'd ended up in, his legs scrambling for purchase, straddling the other because of the lurching motion, his hands pressed into that warm butt just to steady himself. The taller man whose face was now mere centimeters from his own.
Sorry.
He tried, his face flushing.
I didn't mean to.
Gasping quietly, his eyes instantly slipping closed. The 21-year-old felt himself relaxing into the motion, his body no longer tense as his linen-clad legs rested atop the firm cargo pant-covered thighs of the #1 pro. Damn, they were soft. Soft and definitely good at this, if the funny squirming sensation knotting his stomach was anything to go by. Yagi Toshinori had always liked birds, but after today, he might just have to create a sanctuary or two and really play up the value of gulls from now on, because rightly or wrongly, those feathered lucky charms had led to him kissing Shouta, and Shouta kissing him back. He'd apologize, of course, once the plethora of multicolored stars stopped exploding behind his eyes, his hands having also rested tentatively upon the younger man's waist as they stole the breath from each other's lungs. The feel of the other pressed against him, the sensation of those hard-working, wonderful hands lightly trembling atop his shoulders. His lips felt incredible. However, carefully pulling away, He couldn't help the dopey, bewildered expression that was no doubt eating up his features. He would love to take things further, but due to the unexpected nature of their kiss and Shota's inexperience, trying to involve tongues or more daring touches wasn't something he wanted to do without the other's explicit consent. He certainly hoped that they could explore each other further over time. The other tried his features, shocked, pinked. Gorgeous!
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist, really.
Well, if the other initiating their second kiss was anything to go by, then it looked as though his hopes weren't going to be in vain. In all of his 21 years of life, Aizawa Shouta had never attended something so irrational, and yet
Shouta-kun.
it felt pretty damn good, didn't it? Panting lightly, the eatery owner continued to sit on his perch for all of 3 seconds before chuckling sheepishly and going to move.
Yep, I mean, the carriage might still be a little unstable, you know. Oh.
He quipped, his tone sultry even to his own ears, both of them blushing before he snickered, his eyes casting out of the wide glassless viewing circle that surrounded them, their car on a slow leisurely descent.
Well, I suppose that we're, still pretty high up, aren't we?
He grinned.
It's probably a more rational idea to stay as we are, just to be safe, right?
He chuckled, the other's earnest nodding, causing him to laugh a little harder, his hand self-consciously tucking some of his raven hair behind his ears as they regarded each other.
This is probably a really awkward question.
He furthered, his tone now sheepish, his mind very aware of the other's large, gentle hands resting on his waist, the touch of welcome one he'd never thought he'd want or enjoy.
But I've never, kissed like that, before.
He managed out, his eyes having to zip back to the glorious view of the city he'd grown up in, the sun glinting off of skyscrapers, office blocks, and a lone plane flying overhead.
Was it okay?
Damn, the skyline was pretty interesting, wasn't it? He
Shouta-kun?
Daring to meet those neon blue eyes once more, Shouta was struck by how gentle they were.
It's not as though I'm some great Lothario, either,
He said, those amazing shoulders shrugging.
Yes, I have to play up for the cameras, and yes, my agency has had to pair me up with people to have on my arm at event shows, but
He chopped, his expression sincere.
truthfully, I've only had one true relationship, well, a romantic one, anyway.
He explained, his tone wistful.
I met him in America. His name is David Shield, and considering I was too gawky when I got my quirk under control, meeting him and spending time with him was like taking a breath of air after drowning.
He sighed. Blinking, the younger found himself leaning a little closer, his own hands having rested upon the other's bronzed forearms, giving them a light squeeze. He could see hurt there. He never really stopped to think about the other man's love life before. Was that what heartbreak looked like?
We were together in secret. He had certain family expectations he had to live up to, and I didn't want to cause him any unnecessary trouble. And as my second year in the States drew to a close, we'd been a partnership for just over a year, but as my popularity grew and the constraints of his time mounted, we came to realize that we couldn't make a life work together. That's why I returned to Japan earlier than planned, I originally went there to hone my skills and make solid connections with the Western hero agencies. I never expected to meet David, or to feel the way I did.
He confessed, that massive chest deflating. Could he help? Could he perhaps ease some of the pain he saw there?
So, when you ask me if what we just shared with each other was okay, I can tell you wholeheartedly that nothing has made me feel that good in a very, very long time.
He stated seriously, those eyes locking onto his imploringly. He couldn't look away.
Shouta, I don't say this lightly, and I don't say this to pressure you, either.
He furthered, those thumbs slightly rubbing circles into his sides.
I haven't felt the way I feel about you in over 5 years. I genuinely didn't think I could. I mean,
he tried, his brows furrowing lightly.
Finding you and your family, being seen as just Yagi Toshinori and not all right was one thing, but it's difficult to put into words. But when we're in the same room, I feel better. And if this isn't too forward of me, I would really like to date you.
He smiled. So that was the smolder that the women on those daytime talk shows always went on about?
And I know how you feel about the fame I've wrapped around myself, so I'd like to propose that we see each other privately and, well, if further down the line, if in the future we want to become more to each other,
He breathed, his tone hopeful and slightly strained.
that we could talk about managing the fans and the press, couldn't we?
Now, on the logical, rational level, he heard the words fame, fans, and press, and theorized that managing such things would be difficult. Illogically so, and yet, looking at Toshinori and thinking about him, thinking about how knowing him had enriched his life and the lives of his boys, his community, well, sometimes being irrational was a good thing, because life wasn't rational, it wasn't logical, and for a shot at happiness he'd never known he'd been missing. Well,
Yeah,
he replied fondly.
yeah, we could do that.
Shigaraki Tomura loved roller coasters. The ups, the downs, the bends, twists, turns, and speed! Woo! At first, when Spinner had led them here, he balked. Yeah! The Lone Star Galaxy Express was a mammoth beast of spiraling loops, dips, and rises surrounded by tunnels that their future-haired friend had told them activated the 3D headsets you had to wear. He'd promised them, his eyes glittering, that this was the closest thing anyone on Earth would come to interstellar travel until those American guys finally set up that colony on Mars. He and Dabe had been dubious. However, as they ran the cattle run, 3 smiling theme park employees had greeted them, shown them the headsets, and loaded them into the front Cosmos-colored car. When he'd seen that their legs were dangling, and that their bodies had to be strapped 3 times into the streamlined seats, he'd felt a little concerned. And yet, even as Spinner had spouted off facts, figures, and information like Izuku analyzing quirks, his partner had looked at him and offered his hand. Don't worry about activating your quirk, okay? You're in control now. And hey, if you do think you could, if you're holding mine, you won't, right? I know that you'd never hurt me on purpose. Hell, if he hadn't gone and melted right there, his cheeks flushing when the toddler pressed a kiss to his temple, well, shall we go again? Feeling his body being jettisoned along that track, the air rushing through his hair, his eyes bedazzled by the universe opening up to him, the firm grasp of his lover keeping him grounded, then, I never want to get off of this thing! Keep it going! He wasn't sure what being loved, being free, being truly amazingly happy was! Amaraga Ochako had seen documentaries about theme parks and listened avidly as the other children in her school classes had told her about enjoying the rides, the food, and the atmosphere, but oh, wow! Actually getting to experience such things firsthand was beyond her wildest imagination. Ocho-chan, get ready for it! And she had a quirk that allowed her to defy gravity. But unlike the nauseous feeling that overcame her whenever she tried to use her power on herself, having a fully padded, comfortable safety bracket keeping her body in place as the car she'd sat and zipped, zoomed, and all but flew down its rails, she felt, Yahoo! Incredible! Like she and her friends were untouchable, all of them laughing, cheering, and squealing with delight as the almighty coaster took them into the air before speeding them back down, their favorite famous hero's visage waving at them from huge video panels, his suit-clad form showing off super moves and telling them to say, cheese, as the camera snapped their images. Ichi-Tenki, what's with those faces? Images that would show many of them making silly, goofy expressions from the looks of things. She could hardly wait to share all of the photos they take today with her father and mother. Oh, what should we do next? Gotchi. John, let's go to the Big Dipper. Come on, kiddo. She never knew that she could have so much fun.